Welcome to the LDN radio show, brought to you by the LDN Research Trust. I'm your host, Linda Elsiegood. I have an exciting lineup of guest speakers who are LDN experts in their field. We will be discussing low-dose Naltrexone and its many uses in autoimmune diseases, cancers, etc. Thank you for joining us.
Today I'd like to welcome our guest, Natasha from Australia, who's originally from New Zealand. Thank you for joining us today, Natasha.
Thank you very much for having me, Linda. It's lovely to be here.
So I'd like you, in your own words, to tell us your LDN story, the journey that led to you being here today.
Thank you. I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia on the 31st of December of this year that's just gone by, last year. And about 4 or 5 months into the treatment, it's quite an arduous process of chemo, 5 rounds of chemo over each round lasting a month. And I was also in the unit with the Leukemia Foundation because I live on an island. So they put me in a unit nearby the hospital. And one of my sisters from South Africa came out and spent 3 of those months with me to be my carer. So we were out and about on a particularly good day for me, and having ordering something from a award-winning fish and chip shop that I wanted to go to. And she was busy parking the car and I was busy deciding where to sit. And this guy looked at me and he said, "You've got a PICC line?" And I said, "Yes, I do." I was completely bald. He didn't know that because I wore a beanie or a little hat, but he recognized the PICC line. And based on that, he ended up, after his meal, popping over to our table with his sister and proceeded to tell me all about LDN and how he had been sent home basically to die. He had LDN and CBD, and his sister discovered LDN. And so he basically, the thing about LDN I've seen is that you can tell people about it, but they really need to follow up and get the impulse and get the feeling that this is something that's that they need to explore, because it's a responsibility, it's an undertaking to do LDN. You don't just get given a pill that you take and you don't think about it again. You have to be involved in it and know what your dose is and all that. So he then told me about LDN. I just loved the idea of it. The more I read, the more interesting it became. Discovered your website, started looking for practitioners that could prescribe it. Easier said than done. And then I had to wait for the go-ahead from the pharmacists, oncology pharmacists, because I'm on a long-term oral chemo for a year. And they said no to CBD, but lo and behold, they said yes to LDN, which was incredible because they're quite a together oncology ward at the Princess Alexandra Hospital in Brisbane. And they don't leave a stone unturned, and they err on the side of caution. So I made it very clear that if they said no to LDN, I wanted a very intelligent reason why. I wasn't going to settle for just, we don't know enough about it, it's been around for a long time, etc. So I wasn't going to take no for an answer very easily. So I've got a couple of degenerative diseases, but the most prominent issues obviously would be the leukemia and then chronic back pain. I also developed peripheral neuropathy in my feet after the last round of chemo, and that was quite impactful and very annoying and sort of at a level that I was wondering, how would I live with this permanently, So I then was very keen to get going on LDN because I felt that it could only support the cancer and the treatment and the immune system, modulating the immune system. So it's almost like a no-brainer that I needed it for cancer. And then the jury was out as far as I was concerned in terms of chronic pain and peripheral neuropathy. And I didn't at that point realize that people can be really sensitive to it, that there's actually very low dose, ultra low dose as well. I just jumped straight in. My GP knew about it, was happy to prescribe it. Compound pharmacy just off the island, just up the road. So it was just all very easy to lay my hands on it. And he started me off on 1 milligram tablets. I started at 1 milligram. A week later, I thought, no, I'm not going to hang around too much on 1 milligram. I doubled my dose to 2. And then it took 4 weeks, and I was at 4 milligrams in 4 weeks. Minor side effects, really just wakefulness at night for the first 2 nights until my body adjusted, and then I'd sleep like a baby. A few days into taking it, probably about 5 days into it, my peripheral neuropathy halved. And I've just noticed now, it's been 2 months on LDN, that I would say I'm now down to 25% peripheral neuropathy symptoms. And chronic pain was like a switch that got flicked in week 4. Literally. So I'd moved back into my house, had been renovated while I was in hospital for the 7 months. My garage with everything in it got flooded in February. We had major floods. So I really was living on painkillers. You know, one of the good things about the cancer was that I spent a lot of my time on my back, in bed, on my back for the 7 months. And my back issues were virtually non-existent because I had such an easy, cruisy time in terms of body, you know, household chores and tasks and shopping and cleaning and making beds and that kind of thing. So when I was moving back into my house, and a lot of it was still a bit of a building site, and I had to clean, mold and move, and I was in agony on painkillers all the time. And then suddenly on around 28 days or so, I realized I hadn't taken any painkillers, and it felt like I was on painkillers, had been for the day. And I thought, LDN, here we go, LDN. And it was LDN, because that was it. I haven't looked back.
Wow. What an amazing story.
Yeah. So the chronic pain is a very insidious disease because it's a little bit invisible often. I look very well, generally, to people. I always looked well. So they couldn't see that you live with a handbrake half up with chronic pain. I kept painkillers for special occasions because I didn't want to create other issues, intestinal issues or problems with my stomach lining. Or I found the hardcore medications to be exactly that, hardcore. Knocked me sideways. I feel really ill on it, so couldn't do those. And just dialed my life down to suit my back. And so it's become quite a narrow little life, from being very energetic and very fast-paced. And I wasn't able to work anymore, went on to a disability pension in Australia, or here in Australia. And, you know, right, cancer ain't such a good thing, and that's a whole other ball game. But in the meantime, I can resume my life to a degree. You know, it's I still obviously have the issues. I've got a bit of a shopping list of back issues, having been dropped on my head on concrete when I was about 8 weeks old, and then got structural scoliosis and had a brace, wore a brace. So I've got a history of back issues that culminated and reached a tipping point when I 7 years ago, just after turning 50. So LDN has, I would say, improved it by a solid 80%, which means I can go about daily things. I can just daily activities, planning ahead to some degree, entertaining the idea of picking up work again. I've written a book, which I'd like to have the energy to promote and talk about, and run that as a business as well. So I sort of thought I need to get off my little soapbox, because I want to jump up on my little soapbox and just talk about LDN to everyone. When people complain about the pain they're in, I want to go, have you got half an hour? Sit down. Let me tell you about something, this amazing drug called LDN. But that in a nutshell is my story, Linda.
Oh, what an amazing story it is. So how about we redo this again next year, this time, when you finished your long-term chemo, and see how you're getting on?
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Absolutely. I definitely, I think I'm seeing my doctor tomorrow, and I'll just check with him how happy he is for me to send people to him. But yeah, anything that I can do to just inform people and let them know that it's an easy medication to take. I mean, there are all sorts of stories, and your platform is amazing, the informative and supportive, and the Facebook group is fantastic. I suppose in a way I would, there's a protocol for cancer and there's a protocol for chronic pain. So I've just staying with the cancer protocol, but it has hit the target for the chronic pain. So I've watched all your videos, all your documentaries on your website as well. Everyone, very, very informative. And yeah, just thank you for what you do, for what you guys are doing to make it accessible and give us that base of information, to work from.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you, Linda.
Any questions or comments you may have, please email me, Linda, Linda, @ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciated your company. Until next time, stay safe and keep well.